Hi, welcome back. This is Ian Argus for jamplay.com, Strumming Mastery Week 8. So thanks for tuning in, glad you're here. It's been a fun 7 weeks so far, and in these last 2 weeks we've been preparing some right hand exercises, the Giuliani exercises. We've been working on those in preparation of today's lesson, which is Carcassi number 3. I think this is just a really cool piece to learn. It's beautiful. It opens up a lot of doors in terms of just how you can play the guitar. It helped me a lot when my friend Dave Devine had me learn it when he was my teacher, great guitar player. So we'll be looking at that today. Let's see, before we dive into it, let's talk a little bit about what's happening in the right hand. Something to that effect. More like that. I think I added an extra one. That's the right hand pattern, mostly for the whole piece. And then we're going to put some chords with it. I'll play a little bit of it for you and then we'll break it down. And then here the right hand changes. And it ends on an E chord. So that's the first 8 bars of Carcassi number 3, and that's the lesson for today. So why don't we take a look at the chords? So that'll be on one of the PDFs that you have. And we'll get a look, we'll start getting these chord shapes under our fingers. That'll help us a lot when we get to the actual piece, which is your second PDF. All right, so this page you're looking at now that's on the screen, at the top there are 14 chord shapes, and at the bottom there are 15 chords. So there's one chord shape that happens twice. It's the first chord, it's the A6. It's at the top left of the page, but it also happens one other time in the piece in measure 5 on beat 3 there. So if you're following along up above with the chord shapes, just remember between A flat major 7 and B flat minor 6 sharp 5, what a chord name. In between those two you have an A6. So let's first just, we'll just play through all the shapes and we'll worry about the details in a moment. A6. So it's important that we finger it this way. First finger on the second fret of the third string, second finger on the second fret of the second string, and third finger on the second fret of the first string. Pretty chord. And then in that same measure it goes to an A chord. So you just lift up the third finger. So what you'll see is that each chord shape kind of has 2 shapes within it. Each measure ends up having an initial shape, and then you lower the highest note, either by a whole step or a half step with each of these chords. The next shape is a cool way to play a G sharp minor 7 flat 5. So you can really, this is a movable shape. It's a good voicing for a minor 7 flat 5. You could put it anywhere you want it. Another neat way to think about this chord is a B minor triad with a G sharp underneath it. But if we're thinking of G sharp, this is the root, this is the flatted third, Here's the flatted 5th and the flatted 7th. So that's all we need for a G sharp minor 7 flat 5. It's the 7 chord in the key of A. So our first chord was A6. That's the tonic. Here's the 7 chord, kind of a dominant sounding, which goes to another dominant chord, straight to the 5, the E7, and this is an E7 sus4, with that A on top, and then that resolves to an E7. And that being the 5 chord, it goes back to 1. Here's another A chord. This is the A add 9. And like I said, each measure has 2 kind of shapes, 2 melody notes anyway. So first it's A add 9, and then it's just A. And it stays on this A and plays like an A major 7 shape. And that's where it goes back to the A6. This time you finger the A6 as a bar, all with the first finger. Then you go to this crazy B flat minor 6 sharp 5, they're calling it, which resolves to B flat diminished 7 by raising the pinky. And then you have a B7 sus4 to a B7. And notice that that's the first chord where all the notes of the chord have been on 4 adjacent strings. Well, at least on these middle 4 strings. I guess some of these were on adjacent strings. But this is the first time we're occupying strings 5, 4, 3, and 2 exclusively. And then we end on an E chord. All right, so A6, A, G sharp minor 7 flat 5. We can call that E7 over G sharp when we raise the first finger if you want. And then E7 sus4 to E7, A add 9 to A major 7 to A6, B flat minor 6 sharp 5 to B flat diminished 7, B7 sus4, B7, E. So now I'm basically playing the tablature there in half notes with each of those chords getting 2 beats. I'll do that again slowly. Here's what is written on the page. 2, 3, 4. I like this little walk up, A to B flat to B. Again. Descending bass line, melody on top. The bass goes up a 4th to 1. Bass stays where it is. And here's the half step chromatic walk up to the 5. Good. That G sharp minor 7 flat 5, man, it's a little tricky sometimes to place the pinky where you want it. You might have noticed I caught myself playing on the 4th string one time. So one thing I'd like to draw our attention to are the different voices. The melodic voice has this line going. Well, actually here you're hearing both the melodic and the bass voice. So if we eliminate all the middle voices, we can still hear a really nice tune with just the bass and the melody. It's a good song. It's well constructed tune, I think. Excuse me. Let's just hear the bass line. So it goes from A to G sharp to E to A, and then it goes up B flat, B, E. So that's kind of a nice bass line. Now just the melody line. One more time with bass and melody. Good. And now I'll play the piece for you, and then we'll look at the other PDF file that you have, and we'll start talking about playing the tab of this song. So. Great, so I hope you agree that it's a lovely piece. I think it will be challenging for you. It might take several weeks to kind of get this under your fingers, but we've been working up to it, and it's always nice to have a challenge. So let's dive in and check out the second PDF file that you have. Here is the tune. So the right hand, the thumb is either playing string 5 or string 6, right? And it's either playing on beat 1 or 4, except for that last measure where it plays on beat 1 and 3. So we have P, I, M, A, I, M, A, I, M, P, I, M. And that right hand pattern continues for the first 6 bars. It only changes at bar 7. P, I, M, A, I, M, A, I, M, P, I, M. And then the second measure, same thing, but it's 6th string with P. And the third measure is the same as the second one with the 6th string. Measure 4 is just like measure 1, 5th string. Measure 5, also the same. 6 as well. So we'll save measure 7 and 8, and we'll talk about those in a minute. P, I, M, A, I, M, A, I, M, P, I, M. I got off there. So let's try to hold the chord shapes down and see if we can make this happen. So measure 1, then I lift up the finger. So I'm going to loop that measure, let's say 4 times. That's measure 1. Let's try measure 2. So we'll grab that shape, the G sharp minor 7 flat 5. Second time. Third time. And fourth. Good. We'll go measure by measure here for a little while. So let's do measure 3 4 times. I think that was 4, maybe 5. And then the A add 9. Okay, measure 5 is A major 7 to A6. Third time. Fourth time. All right, we're cruising through. Measure 6 now is this B flat minor 6 sharp 5 to B flat diminished. So I'll do that 4 times. It's a dark sounding chord. Okay, then the 7th measure the right hand pattern changes. P, I, M, A, I, M, and then the pinky goes down to B7. P, I, M, A, I, M, and then an E chord. Or down there is fine. Here's the 7th measure 4 times. And now measure 8 4 times. let's try to put it together. Here's all 8 measures. 1, 2, 3, triplet, 4, triplet. There you go, folks. Carcassi number 3. It's a beautiful piece, and it's definitely bound to challenge you both in your left hand and your right hand. Good. Maybe we'll just pause in case anybody has something specific they'd like me to go over, for me to take a sip.
We do have one question here, Ian.
Great.
This one is from Matt. And Matt's question is, are you muting string 5 when you're playing the G sharp minor 7 flat 5?
Well, it doesn't really come up because I'm not picking it, but yes, it's muted. Because if it weren't, and if I played that A, it would be pretty crunchy. Kind of cool. But yeah, since we're not playing that string with the thumb, it's not ringing. So the muting isn't absolutely necessary, but a keen eye, because you notice that indeed I am muting that. Thanks, Matt.
All right, next question is from Ronald Knorr. Ian, can you please go over the B7 sus4 chord? That is a tough one.
Yeah, that's a tricky one, isn't it? Well, if you've ever played an A7 chord, like that, and if you've ever turned that into a sus, or if we could try to play A7 like with the 3rd finger on the 4th string 2nd fret and the pinky on the 2nd string 2nd fret, and then if we were to move that pinky up to the 3rd fret of the 2nd string for the A7 sus4, and then if we could imagine that if it weren't for the nut right here, stopping the strings, then our finger would have to be there, right? So if we were to move up to B, to frets 4 and 5, I would need to bring this 1st finger in to play fret 2 on string 5 and 3. And the tricky part about it is getting the finger to also have enough pressure to play string 3. So I definitely end up feeling that a lot in this muscle here by the thumb. You'll feel when you do those bar chords, that's kind of where you feel it. Another thing that you can be aware of is that I like to remind folks that the arm is heavy, and if you were to just keep it here for very long, my arm would start to get tired from holding it up because, of course, it has weight and gravity wants to pull it down. So I try to keep that in mind when I'm playing, that there's some weight already in my arm, and I try to let the weight of my arm do most of the work. So the way I have my right hand holding the guitar keeps the guitar in place so that I can, with my left hand, I can pull the guitar neck into my body and then let my hand hang down. Kind of the natural way that my hand wants to go, like to fall down to my side. I'm just sort of letting that happen, pulling it out and down, basically. And that seems to help me execute those bar chords using gravity and the weight and strength of my arm rather than just muscling it with those hand muscles. So you will need to develop a little bit of hand strength, but I think you can also think about, distributing the gravity and the weight of your arm differently to help you play that chord. As I'm talking about it, I'm able to do it, if I focus on that, I'm able to do it without as much tension in my thumb muscle, although it's still there. But yeah, I remember when I learned this piece, Ronald, that was a tricky section for me too. So it might take you several weeks of just kind of struggling through and developing that strength to do that. And I'm pretty sure you're not the only person out there who's asking that question. So thanks for bringing it up.
Okay, next question is from Studio, and wondering why there's no fingering on the notation.
Yeah, that might have just been an oversight. I suppose he's asking about the right hand fingering. I think also partly some of it is implied with other things we've done. I'll talk more about that. But let me see, did I ever add fingering? Huh. Yeah, that could just be an oversight on my part. So I could, as much as all my friends and colleagues at Gemplay are getting tired of posting my edits, I bet they'll do me just one more favor and let me send you a file that has the right hand fingerings on it.
And actually, just to clarify, Studio was speaking of the left hand.
Oh, the left hand?
On the chord charts.
Okay. Well, on the chord charts, the program is a little tricky to allow me to assign a fingering. So if it thinks that a chord should be fingered a certain way, I have not figured out how to outsmart the machine and tell it, no, I want you to finger it this way, at least on the chord diagrams. I can add the fingerings on the actual notation for you. But why don't you grab a pencil and print this baby out, and let me just talk you through that real quick. Is Sus Studio in a position where he could have a paper copy? Let us know if you are, Sus Studio. If you have this in front of you and you have a moment to jot down some fingerings, or if anyone else would like that, we could definitely take a moment to talk through that. Also, the video will be archived so you can go back and see the fingerings. But if you need any extra help, just let me know. I'll talk you through it.
Okay, so Studio is ready.
Oh, okay, cool. So could we look at, Chris, the PDF file, the first one? I think he wants to know with the chord diagrams. Okay, sweet. So A6 on the left there, that should be on string 3, that should be first finger. String 2 should be second finger. And string 1 should be third finger. So 1, 2, 3. And then the A would just be 1 and 2. So 1, 2, 3 for A6 and 1, 2 for A. Okay, let's move along. G sharp minor 7 flat 5, the 6th string, 4th fret, you're going to play that with finger 3. Finger 4 then plays string 3 fret 4. Finger 2 is on string 2, and finger 1 is on string 1. So from 6 to 1, that's 3, 4, 2, 1 fingering. And then, of course, E7 over G sharp, you just lift up the first finger. So that's 3, 4, 2. All right. Hope I'm not going too quickly. E7 sus4 then, third string is second finger. Second string is first finger. and first string is pinky for me, or it could be third finger for the E7 sus4 or pinky, and then the E7 will definitely be third finger. You could either use third finger for the first string on E7 sus4 and for the E7, or you could opt to go with the pinky on E7 sus4 and the third finger on E7. I think that's what I tend to do. I tend to use the pinky for E7 sus4 and the third finger for E7. So moving along to the A add 9, third string is second finger, second string is first finger, and first string is pinky. And then the A is the same, third string, second string, first finger, but now first string is also the first finger. So it's a little third bar, if you will, or quarter bar, whatever they call that. All right, cruising along, A major 7. That's third string, first finger, second string, first finger, first string, pinky. And then what's not included on your diagram right here after the A major 7 is another A6. This one with all first finger. So a half bar, 1, 1, 1. So the second time you play A6, in the fifth measure, you're going to play it with a bar. B flat minor 6 sharp 5, string 5 first finger, string 2 third finger, string 1 pinky. And then B flat diminished 7, same, but lift up the pinky. So just first finger, fifth string, third finger, second string. B7 sus4 then, you've got fifth string is first finger, fourth string is third finger, third string is the first finger again, so there's the bar, and then the pinky goes on the second string. And that's true also for the B7, the pinky goes on the second string, but at a different fret. And then for the E, you can just hold a full E chord if you like. Or if you just want to play the one note with your pointer finger on the third string, that's acceptable too. I tend to just think of it as an E chord and I just hold the whole shape. Cool. Let me know if any of that needs to be repeated.
Okay, that's all the questions we have right now. If anyone has any other questions, please type them into the chat and we'll pass them along to Ian here.
Yeah, please do let me know if you have other questions. If you master these first 8 bars, I would encourage you to get your hands on this book, the Carcassi book, and learn the rest of the piece. There's 2 different Carcassi books that I'm aware of. One is called the Carcassi Guitar Method, the complete Carcassi Guitar Method. And I'm not sure if this is in that book, but I also have a separate book of his etudes and such, and this is definitely in that. That's a neat book. I can't play everything in there by any stretch, or I haven't worked on it, I should say. So while we're waiting for more questions, or maybe one is ready.
I'm just saying maybe you could go ahead and play it from the top one more time.
Yeah, let's do that.
And we'll see if we get any more questions.
Here it is from the top. 1, 2, 3, triplet, 4. I think I skipped a chord. Here it is again. comes the second line. Lovely piece. So let me talk just for a moment about weeks 9 and 10 coming up. Next week and the following week, we'll be wrapping up this course. So week 9 is titled Que Pasa. It's basically a jazz song called Blue Bossa, and we're working on the accordal accompaniment of it in the style of Paul Musso, who teaches on jamplay.com and was one of my teachers and friend as well, neighbor, colleague. So we'll check out Paul's kind of blue bossa approach, and then in week 10, the final week, we're going to grab a hold of a pick one more time and do some Travis picking on an E blues. In the style of Joe Scott, my first guitar teacher. So I took the opportunity to give a little tip of the hat to some of my friends who've helped me out along the way learning guitar in this series. So that's what we're going to do weeks 9 and 10. Both of those weeks have a track for you to play along with, so that's exciting and fun to look forward to. That's a little bit about the next 2 weeks.
All right, we've got a couple more questions here.
Cool.
Someone was wondering if you have another example of a Carcassi music that's found in one of the books, if you know anything off the top of your head.
No, I would have to. I don't have that book with me, and I would definitely have to open it up to not embarrass myself, from memory, trying to do something else like that.
And then this question is from Woody Bang. How many measures in the entire piece? Are there more chords?
Yeah, I would say there's at least another 8 or 16 bars, if not more. There might be a couple of other chords, but the rest of the piece, Jeff, definitely follows this general format. It just kind of elaborates on it more. I didn't think we would have time in this particular session to learn the whole piece, so I wanted to just focus on a small chunk. But yeah, check that stuff out. I bet you can find a YouTube video of someone playing the full Carcassi number 3, or find a nice recording of it. Or heck, you might even be able to find a PDF of the sheet music somewhere. But I would encourage you to go buy that. And classical guitar can be fun. It's I definitely don't consider myself a classical guitarist, but I do like to work on that material a little bit. And I've found, though I've never done any Suzuki training, I've found those Suzuki books to be really great for working with my younger students, especially students who have some other musical experience, like maybe they play an instrument at their high school or in their school band or orchestra. It seems like the Suzuki guitar stuff can really be cool. So I'd encourage you to check that stuff out, as well as the Carcassi and the Soar. I'm also a fan of the Segovia right-hand exercises and the chromatic octaves, the slur exercises. Left-hand exercises, Segovia, not right-hand. Giuliani was the right-hand. Also, I've checked out a little bit of Segovia's scales. He has specific fingerings for each different scale. It's not like C major and D major would have the same fingering, because the way he fingers them kind of encompasses the whole instrument. So each key is different because each key lies differently. So it's a pretty intense approach to scales. But that's just some fun stuff that I've only barely scratched the surface of. Cool. Well, I guess I'll play you guys out. Thanks for being here today. It's always an honor, and hope you guys have enjoyed it. Please join me next week for Que Pasa, and the week after that for the blues. And until then, have a great week. Stick around for later tonight for Mr. David Walleman. That's it. Good night. This is Ian Argus for jamplay.com. This is Strumming Mastery Week 8. Good night.